Hey everyone, how's everyone doing? I have Colleen Mariotti with us today, and we usually do a Facebook Live, but she's going to be busy over the next few weeks touring universities around Europe for her teen kids who want to apply. So I'm eager to ask her questions about that. But I am planning to stream this on March 6th, I think, for the first time, and I'm hoping to have a watch party. So I'm hoping that people can still ask questions during the watch party. And then maybe if and when Colleen is not busy touring university, she can come back and answer your questions. So welcome, Colleen. How are you doing?
Thank you, Liz. I'm doing great. I'm so happy to be here, and I'm excited to learn from this community and hopefully share something that will resonate. And just thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, we're super excited to learn from you because you've been world schooling for longer than I have, for 10 years, correct?
Yes, we left Seattle in the fall of 2013.
Wow.
Yeah, 2013.
That's amazing.
Kids.
Yeah, I'm from the Seattle area as well. Where specifically were you living?
We were living on Bainbridge Island.
Oh, beautiful there.
Yes.
Oh, it must have been hard for you to leave, but it is a little isolated.
It's funny. I mean, everyone always thinks that you leave because you're dissatisfied. And I always say, we were not tired of our life. We were so inspired by our life. And we just wanted to see more of what the world had to show us. So we absolutely loved our life in Washington, and actually went back during lockdown. And so it's still home in a way, but now we've added many homes, as you know.
Good, good. Well, tell us, what was the I mean, other than wanting to see the world and get out there, what was the impetus to travel? Because you mentioned something about your husband, Italian roots.
Yes, so we were speaking with some friends in, gosh, it was winter, like over Christmas time of 2012. Everything happened really fast. And they were talking about dual Italian citizenship through their Italian lineage, through our friend's father's side. So we started researching and talked to a few organizations and realized that if we went to Italy, this is before understanding Italian culture. If we went to Italy, it would be faster. And so it started in motion, this whole plan of applying for dual citizenship from Italy. And by April, the plan was in motion. So from the time we decided to departure, it was about 4 months.
Wow. What did you do? What did you do with your house in Bainbridge?
We sold everything. We didn't own a house at the time. We were in between selling and buying. So we sold everything, packed 5 carry-ons, and that's how we still live.
Wow, that's amazing. Carry-ons only. I'm amazed. It's hard for me to do that, but
it's been very liberating. At times, I think it's more challenging to have less than more, especially with teens now. But it's been, I think, probably the best decision we ever made. There was probably a few times we would have retreated back to our safety net if we had one. So I'm glad that we didn't.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, so you went to Italy first, and how long did you spend there?
We went, the process was supposed to take about 3 months initially for the application, and it took about 1.5 years.
Wow.
So we went to every region in Italy, while we were kind of bouncing back and forth, just road tripping. And then after that, we went back to the US. We drove the whole Oregon Trail from Cape Cod all the way to Oregon City along Highway 20, because our kids were at that age where they would be studying that. And then we went to Southeast Asia, Oceania, Hawaii, all over Asia, and then back to Europe. So we've just kind of gone around the world slowly.
And how old were your kids when you set off, and how old are they now?
They were 5. Our daughter was 5, and our 2 boys were 8 and 9. Okay. And we now have a 14, just turned 18 last week, and a 19-year-old.
Okay, awesome. Wow, so they've seen a lot. I mean, you all have seen a lot, and you've already mentioned some of the places you've been. Do you have any favorites? It's hard to ask because
it's such a tough question, because some of the places that our initial impressions were probably the most disheartening, turned out to be the most transformational. So I think favorite for me means, shifting our perspective, shifting our paradigm, shifting what we once knew to be true, pushing us out of our comfort zones. One of those places was definitely Indonesia, Bali. We kind of had this, we'd been traveling fast and hard, and Bali was going to be our, I guess, screensaver. And it was, very complicated. And there was a lot of different things happening there that we weren't expecting. And it ended up being probably one of the richest experiences. We taught English in an ashram for a while, and it was an ashram / orphanage. And it was just the most remarkable place. So I think for us, anywhere is our favorite as long as we show up present and open-hearted, and I guess as free of preconceived notions as we can be in this age of imagery and knowledge of what a place is before we arrive. We've really had to train ourselves over the years to just arrive open and ready for whatever a place has to teach us.
Yeah. And so prior to that, you probably were dealing with culture shock. And then, are you saying that you kind of went beyond that and opened up your perspective?
It was more just, we weren't comfortable, having this luxurious vacation when there was a lot of need, and a lot of just environmental issues, just a lot of stuff going on, and understanding that we're a part of that problem and how can we become a part of the solution, and just all of those questions that hit you. And we are never rarely tourists, but in that was our plan there. Like, we were done, immersing. We're like, we're just going to sit by the pool, and I don't know if we're capable of it anymore, but it just turned into a place that will forever, go down as changing us.
That's amazing. Okay. So you totally, instead of being a tourist, you really immersed and helped and volunteered, and, you just.
Yeah, we did everything we could to understand. Because it was the best story in Indonesia is that we were staying in a house, and we came home one day. There was an empty lot next to the house, and they were burning the garbage, and it was plastic. It was toxic. It was black smoke coming over our house, and being from the Pacific Northwest, I'm like, this is horrible. And the next day, my daughter looks over the fence and she says, "Mom, they're burning our garbage." So that whoever was cleaning our space was burning and I was like, okay, so we are the issue. Like, it was such a great aha moment. Like, you can't just arrive and say, what's wrong with these systems and why aren't they blah blah blah. And it's
recycling.
You're part of it wherever you are, and we're all part of it globally, whether we arrive somewhere or not. And so it's just, that was the place that taught us that, we have a responsibility. And
so what did you do after that situation? I mean, what can you do?
We just took a huge step back and said, we had little kids. The second bedroom was separate from the main house with a locked door. And it was a very neighborhood. We were very immersed, and we just learned to take a huge step back and figure out, try to understand, try to contribute in a way that's meaningful, try to learn from the experts, the locals, people that know what's happening. What do they want? How can we be better citizens?
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard not to come in with your Western perspective and judge and say, you should not be burning this garbage. You should recycle and whatnot. And, of course they should, but it might not be easy for their society.
It's also the US consumerism that's driving so much of the garbage in lots of parts of the world. And so we have, and not just consumerism, but what we've invented, the plastics and all these things that we use. And when we would go to the markets, all of the food was wrapped in banana leaves, everything was totally biodegradable, but it was a lot of the stuff that, we were generating. It was just such a great learning.
Right. Yeah, I was in Bali in 1999, and then I went back with my kids in 2016, and just the amount of plastic garbage over those years was shocking, just how their society has changed because, modern culture is to put everything in plastic bags.
And tourism is just, it's too much for that little space in the world. And it's such a magical space. And I think that's just happened so many times. So when we first landed and we were like, oh, this isn't what we expected, has now turned into, here we are, what can we learn?
Yeah.
What can we observe? What can we give back? What can we take with us from the hearts of the people? And Worldschooling gives you that luxury because you're not on a week vacation.
Right.
You might circle back someday. That everything is not as it's advertised, and it's just such a great.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is Worldschooling. I mean, I mentioned to Worldschool newbies that this is not a vacation, this is like a lifestyle. And they said, what do you mean by that? And so this is it. I mean, this is really like immersing yourself in the culture and learning about it and the challenges and the problems and seeing if you can help out while you're there instead of just being a tourist and kind of taking,
Yeah. Well, and we always joke that like we don't have much to give in terms of things, and we don't have anything with us. We can't even leave the house on laundry day because we only have like 2 outfits each. So what we give back is understanding. We try to share. I mean, a Livology is all first person because I'm only trying to share what we observe and trying to teach our teens, and they've taught us that first person experience is the best way to learn, whether you're in your own backyard or because we have so much information coming in these days that forming opinions without a lot of experience seems to be a bit of a epidemic. And I think the more we can experience differences, the richer all of our lives.
Yeah, you mentioned your blog, which I was going to mention later on in our talk. But it's good. So everyone knows. We will put the blog link down below in the comments, and you also have an ebook, and you also do some travel consulting. So I want to learn more about that. But we were not really super connected on Facebook because a lot of the people I'm interviewing are people that I met in real life over the last 6 years. But I have a new How to World School program. One of my clients follows your blog and said, you need to interview Colleen. She's fantastic. So I'm really
that's so nice
here. But let's get into talking about how you educate your kids, because I know you've tried many different ways, and the big question that many newbies have is, can I get my World School kids into university? And not only can you, but you're also applying to universities in Europe as an American, Italian, dual nationality family. So tell us about, like, from 10 years ago, what are the different ways that the kids have tried to learn?
So when we first set out, we kind of had like we're going to read every day, write every day, do some computing every day. They were really little. It was a lot of travel math, train schedules, time zones, currency, things like that, it was great. We didn't really I didn't feel like at their ages we needed like a set curriculum. We did a lot of educational paths through the Louvre, through temples in Asia, through the outback in Australia. So it was very just passion driven based on their interests. When they started to want like a little bit more concrete, we just ordered workbooks, or they did time for learning or different online things, but we never really have prescribed any form of education for any of them.
Okay.
When we would always say, if they got frustrated with the skill that they didn't have, okay, what tools do you need? We would provide them. What teachers do you need? What can we organize for you? But it's really self-directed. Right before the pandemic, so then one day they were at the park. We were in Tuscany, Forte dei Marmi, Italy, back for more passport work, citizenship work. And they met a kid at the park, and he was talking about his school lunch and how great his school lunch was, and that they sit at school lunch for an hour and a half and they eat 4 courses and they're weighted on and all that. So our kids, of course, are
So
like, we want
different
to go to
from
school.
American schools.
They said, we want to go to school, Mom. We want to go to school. So my husband and I go down to the school, and we weren't citizens yet. We were still working on that. So we had our American passports, and we just said our kids want to enroll. We're going to be here for 6 months. And it was easy. They went to school in Tuscany for 6 months. I mean, of course, that not anyone in the building spoke English, even the English teacher. The lunches were epic, but it was very traditional. There were lots of huge challenges, learning challenges, because even if they say math is universal, you know, sometimes the operation is in a different, written differently, which changes everything. So the kids, it was a great experience for them. They went to a Montessori in New Zealand for a little while. That I was kind of working with on some educational consulting. They, so they tried different frameworks. We went back to the US right before the pandemic they all voted. That's part of our process. I'll tell you about a few. They all voted that they wanted to try the American high school experience. Went back, we have aging parents, to spend a little time in the US, and then the pandemic hit. So they tried school for 1 year, like traditional US, and then they decided that they were going to do Running Start, which is a dual credit enrollment program in Washington State, where you can do your associate's degree and your high school diploma in the last 2 years of high school.
Okay,
so both boys,
community college, right?
Yeah, but it was all online because of the pandemic. So they had tons of course options, and they wanted to do something asynchronous. They didn't want to sit in their high school classes, Zoom classes, for 4 to 6 hours a day. So they did asynchronous community college. And actually that has been the #1 way that they've been accepted into European universities, because it trumps standardized testing. It trumps, in most cases, AP placement. It depends on the courses that the child takes in their associate's degree. But like my son knew he wanted to study international business, so he took, you know, higher level math classes. He only had to take 1 math class. He took 3, and that gave him AP equivalence, and he was just accepted to his top choice university in the Netherlands. So
okay, but I have a question about Running Start, and there might be similar things around the US. I don't know about other countries, but I do know about it in Washington State. Are there certain prerequisite your kids have to be able to enroll as a, you know, because they're not 18, from what I understand? If you're 18 and above, you can get into any community college. They can't refuse you, but how do you get in as a 16-year-old or 15-year-old?
So with running, you can either pay and you can take running, or you can do your AA degree at any age if you can pay and do the work.
Okay, because you have to prove that you have reading and math skills at a
they will have some, they'll have some placement things, but if you place below 101, like a 101 level English, or 141 or 110 level math, then they'll do there'll be like a pre-course. But with Running Start, of course, it's, you know, it's free when you're in high school, because it's a dual credit program. So it's paid for by the government. But you do have to be enrolled in a public school. So we were in Washington at the time. So you have to be enrolled in a local public school to reap those benefits. Otherwise you can enroll, but you can enroll as a homeschooler, world schooler, if you want to pay. And that's actually a great way to see if your child wants to do university. I mean, for us, we never said you got to go to university. So Running Start was a great indicator of readiness and willingness to organize your own time, to work in an asynchronous way, to meet deadlines. It was great. And they knew at that time that that's the path that they wanted.
That's amazing. So you did this for your kids did it for 2 years?
Yeah. And they basically coincided with getting their associate's degrees with lockdown ending and us.
Okay, but we can do this abroad, you know, because it's online. We don't have to physically be in the state, do we?
No, not if you're a paying customer. If you're technically, you're supposed to be butts in the state if you're in the Running Start program. Yeah.
Okay. maybe you are at the beginning and then you can leave. I mean, I know a lot of world schoolers who use Arizona State University, you know, kind of a similar program when they're teenagers. And
I think if you're a paying customer, but I think if it's the state run, like if you're in high school and you want to do the dual credit, then you're technically supposed to be, you know, enrolled in a local public school, which means you have an address in an address.
So once your kids did this for 2 years, then what? The universities in Europe, and I want to ask, are you applying in Italy or other countries? They look at that as an associate's degree, yes, and because there's grades and credits. Yes.
I wish this was a simple answer. We've now applied to university in 5 countries. Wow. With ×2 kids. It's a full-time job for all of us. Every school is different.
What language do they?
No, there's 1,300 bachelor's degrees, I think, something like that in the EU taught fully in English, 100%. Every school is different. There's no standardized applications in most of the countries that we're working in. We have kind of started directing our energy toward the Netherlands because their systems are so good, and also some Northern European, you know, Scandinavia, their systems are really good. But as dual citizens, you know, the most expensive tuition we're looking at is like $1,800 US a year.
As a foreigner, that's all you need to pay?
No, as a dual citizen.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Sorry.
But I would say
you have Italian citizenship.
Yes, but I would say the downside of dual citizenship is you're held to the national call, which is you might have to take a math test in Portuguese. You might have to, you know, there's a lot of other things other hoops you have to jump through if you're an EU national. However, the financial, as you know, coming from, I mean, if we go to UW, we're talking, you know, $30,000 to $40,000 for a state school a year per child. So this was one of the reasons that we got dual citizenship when we did. And both boys, I think, are going to end up in the Netherlands, which would be great to have them in the same country. But we'll see.
But are the university classes taught in English or Dutch? Because I do know
100% English. Okay. And I said 1,300. It could be almost 2,000 bachelor's degrees taught 100% in English in the EU. And many of them are tuition free. Many universities in Germany are tuition free. Scandinavia has so many master's degrees that are tuition free. The cost of living, of course, is higher, but it's not as high as Seattle. So it's a really, for global citizens, I feel like it's a natural next step. If they want to go to university, again, we're all about learning in so many different ways. And like I said, we've never push this. Oh, the other benefit is that both boys' bachelor's degrees are 3 years. So
I was going to ask, if they have the 2-year AA, so how many more years for?
So that's the only thing. If they transferred into the UW or Western or a state school in America that would accept their degree, they would transfer in as juniors.
Okay.
Because the AA degree is 2 years worth of university credits in Washington State if you do well. Here, it's just a bypass for the IB, the AP in some cases, depending on the classes you've taken, and the standardized tests. Some of the universities have still required our boys to take the entrance exams, and that's been a great experience as well. But yeah, it's so every school is different.
They didn't have to take any SATs or the IGCSEs?
No, we didn't do any standardized testing. They did PSATs when we were back before lockdown, but they were literally, you know, 2 days off of a flight from Oceania, and I don't even remember it. But no, the associate's degree, even in a state school, UW or Western or any of those schools, the AA trumps the standardized testing. It's a higher level of achievement than the standardized testing, which is why we did it, because it's the perfect. It gives them, if they don't want to go to university, they already have a degree. Yeah. If they do want to go to university, it gives them those credits. And if they want to go to university in the US, it gives them that option as well.
Yeah. Well, my girls are only 13, almost 14, and there is a community college, like a technical college near where my mom lives. The public schools are terrible, but they have one. And they do have the Running Start. I reached out to them, and because they have like a cinematography graphic design program that I think one of my girls might be interested in, and she can try to enroll when she's 16. But they also told me I would need to enroll her in the local public school as a homeschooler. Like she doesn't have to go,
Yeah.
but technically
You have to.
she has to be a student with that school. Then they can, but then he did say that she needed to test and make sure her English and math were at college level, community college level. So
I think every state is different, but what we found was that when they did those tests, they were more placement tests. And literally both of our boys had been unschooled for 7 years before this, like unschooled.
Other than they went to a couple local schools.
Yeah, but in foreign languages or foreign, I mean, it was not like
more for the experience, not
that was for lunch. They went for lunch, let's be clear. So yeah, I mean, and they were fine on that. I mean, they definitely had to work harder than kids who have been in math since 3rd grade. Their first, 2 semesters of math was like, whoa, but I mean, they caught up in 6 months. So they wouldn't trade. I don't think they would trade, trekking and New Zealand, all the things that they've done for those 6 years.
Okay, so you didn't have to create any transcripts or anything. Your big thing was to get them into this Running Start community college, which was online, between the ages of 16 and 18-ish, right? And you have an 18 and 19-year-old, but they're both trying to get into university in Europe for the first year.
Well, last year, I mean, I think the pandemic, it just made it, because we couldn't leave until the fall of 2021 with vaccines and all that stuff, whatever. So by the time we got here, the European system is very different for application deadlines. And that would be my big thing. If you are applying in Europe, you really need to, I'm actually planning to write a blog about it soon after this next trip, but you really need to recognize, I mean, some of the deadlines are before the holidays. Sometimes you don't get your acceptance until September 10th of the year you're supposed to start. So you really have to look for schools with rolling admissions if it's going to work for moving to a different country and all of those things. So
you're back in Italy now.
We're in Italy now. We're in the Alps. Both boys have a couple jobs each. One of our sons is really passionate about music, and he is doing opera ski DJing every night, and they work at the grocery store in the morning. And our daughter does some English tutoring for 5 and 6-year-olds, and she's 14. So it's just, that's how we build community, is through working, through engaging. They're all volunteering next week for the local Carnivale celebration, which is a fairy tale giant gargantua who brings the beautiful lady back from Zermatt, because we're right at the foot of the Matterhorn right now. And they ski down, and then there's a big parade, and our kids will be all dressed in the local costumes. And so it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, so let's talk about socializing, because you mentioned you haven't gone to any world school hubs, but you really try to immerse in the local culture. So tell us how that's gone in the last 10 years. Give us some examples of how you've done that.
Well, initially, I mean, we were pretty we're a big family. So it was really, it was really about our relationships with each other for the first year, just getting clear, like, how are we going to spend all this time together, move through the world together, become a team. And we spent a lot of time in the first year on shared core values. What do we each value individually? What do we value as a group? What's our vision for this time? What's our core purpose? What's our BHAG, or our big, hairy, audacious goal? So that's a language we built really early with the kids, and something that has served us the whole time. We have never done a world school hub. We've met world schoolers, but really not that many physically, like face to face, because we've just kind of charted this path through the world that's been very inspired, and we've never really planned it too much. So because we work online and we school online now, we don't really have a plan so much. The reason we're here is because we're residents of this valley, and that means that are two kids that are under 18. Their ski passes are 79 euros a year
Oh my
to
gosh.
go to Zermatt and Trevina, so they can ski in premier alpine resorts, and we can work, and we have a great community here. So this is our European home. The sun is just coming over the glacier. It's really bright.
So you're spending a lot of time there as kind of your European home base, and you're making local connections there.
We do that everywhere. I mean, New Zealand, we were 7 months. We go slowly now. We started super fast, got to see it all, got to show them the world. And then like after 3 years, maybe 2 years, we were like, okay, we got to slow this train down. And we really spend all of our time supporting local businesses, understanding, building community. The kids they volunteered the last few days to do or over Christmas too, but also last few days to do the FIS snowboard cross, park shaping, whatever they can do to support, whatever we can do to support is what we do.
That's amazing. So what other countries like in Asia or Australia or wherever you've been have you found community? Like how do you go about that?
Everywhere. Just by being open-hearted, showing up, because we're very self-contained. We love being together. People come to us. I think we don't really arrive like we got to immerse, we got to learn, we arrive like we just try to land.
So you don't post on Facebook groups and try to find.
I've never done that. I think we just try to land, and we just try to walk, and we just try to shop and eat and learn and just come from a place of love. And I know it sounds corny, but after 10 years, I'm telling you, if we had forced any of it, we wouldn't be where we are, I don't think. And we do
to say goodbye to people because I mean, one advantage of hanging out with world schoolers is sometimes you might see them again, or at least we do. But
we've started to circle back. I mean, if you stay at it long enough, that's why this is our third season in Trevina in 10 years. And now, this is where the kids want us to be when they're at university. They want to come home here.
Okay.
But again, there's been some hard goodbyes, but we've never really looked at it that way, because I think that's a really important part of global citizenship, is that it's really a global community. And I mean, our oldest son was just talking yesterday about how much he's going to miss being here next year. And we said, so many of these people will disperse, but that just grows your community, because it's, people come, they work for the season, and that's who the teens connect with. They're all these seasonal workers, and they have this great, dreamy winter. And then those people all disperse, and then you have friends in Sweden, and you have friends in Greece, and you have friends in Slovenia, and it just keeps growing the community. And I think that's a really important part of, sorry.
That's okay.
It's a really important part of what we've done, is just that we've never said that friendships are location dependent.
Right. Yeah, that is such a good point. I mean, I've traveled so much since I was 19, and I still keep in touch with so many friends I met traveling. So, but how has your travels and world schooling changed as your kids have become teens? Because I meet some world schooler families that say once their kids are teens, and you mentioned your kids wanted to try school back in the States for a bit. Some of them want to return back to their home base and stop traveling, but you guys have kind of gone in and out. So how has that experience been?
I think that's a great question. And I think it's something that, again, we never planned out. We never said we're going to do a gap year, or we're going to be gone 10 years, or we're going to be gone 6 months. We just said, we're just going to see what the world has to teach us. And what we do have is that framework that I talked to you about earlier. We are not a democracy, which I know I've talked to a lot of world schoolers about over the years. We have to have 100% consensus to move forward.
Wow.
And we started that when the kids were 5, 8, and 9, and it's instrumental with teens. So for our teens, I'm not going to speak to anyone else's teens, but if they don't have a vote and their vote isn't counted or they're overruled, it wouldn't work for our kids, because our kids are fiercely independent, obviously, having lived, free range
Yeah.
for most of their young lives. So without a unanimous vote where everyone's heard, and we have a process on the blog. I wrote a blog called Stepping Out, which was after 2 years in the US, when things started opening up again. We had this big, like, okay, what do you guys want to do? I mean, one of the boys had a girlfriend. They were part of different clubs, really good friendships that formed that we bubbled with over the pandemic. So what do you guys want to do? And I wrote out our process. Like, we get away, we make sure we house sat. Speaking of house sitting, we house sat on Lummi Island at a flower farm. It was 10 days where we didn't have any really connectivity. We talked a lot about the last few years. Then we go into an appreciative process, which is like, when is the time you felt most connected? When is the time you felt we all have different answers? Then we look for what's common in those answers. We come up with 3 paths, and then we vote privately on those paths. If we don't have a unanimous vote, we don't tell anybody who's an outlier, and we just keep working through it until we find a path that everyone can get behind. And we do not move forward from anywhere without that path. And initially we voted every 3 months, and now we vote every 6 months, or when we come up against a change.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm gonna have to read your blog article because I have twins, and one decided to take a break from traveling, so she's living with grandma in the Tacoma area, and I put her in a middle school Montessori, but Gabby still wants to travel, the other one. So we now go back and forth. We're now kind of part-time world schoolers to make it work for everyone, but it's not 100% perfect.
No, and of course we made the decision originally, right? Because they were young, and it was like we were looking at the next 10 years, and we thought, okay, what can we do to really kind of blow this thing up? And we made the original decision, but we started the voting on the first decision we had to make after that. And we just realized we don't want to drag anyone anywhere. And we're traveling with 5 adults now. And so it's really important that they have a say, and that they know that they're being heard. And it's different. If someone just has a bad day, that's not a time to vote. That's why I talked about getting away, really everyone committing to this time to brainstorm, this time to come from an appreciative perspective, to align with our core values. We have a core purpose as a family. If our decisions don't align with our core purpose, we don't move forward.
Yeah, it's a real in-depth process. It's not just like a spontaneous, hey, let's get together and have a family meeting and a vote.
Well, because everyone comes to family meetings with their own agenda. And what's really important is that we make values-based decisions that support who we want to be as a family, how we want to show up, how we want to treat one another. And when there's an outlier or someone's got their own agenda that they're pushing, it just doesn't contribute positively to the family environment. And I mean, we're living in a tiny apartment. We have no oven. We have a college-sized fridge. I mean, there's challenges when you're living in these dream destinations and, doing these things. There's challenges to your physical space, and it's really important that everyone chose it. Yeah. I can't even imagine being here right now if everyone hadn't, and not just here, anywhere that we've been, if everyone hadn't chose it.
Yeah, it's not fun. The whining and the complaining and the depression and all that.
No, and when we do come up against it, we just say, we'll take someone one-on-one and just say, look, what we're hearing some things that we've heard before. What's going on? Are you wanting to be on a different path? Is it time for a vote? And then it's usually just somebody was a jerk that day or something, and then they come back into the vision. But that common language we set up early on is something that has helped us make decisions over the 10 years. And I think that, we all have different individual core values, but to come up with core values that are shared is super important, because then you can say, does this experience, contribute to who we are as a family, or does it detract from that? Yeah. And does how you're talking to so-and-so contribute? Or you can use it at all levels of decision.
Your kids are learning such great life lessons and communication lessons through this process. I'm going to find that article and post it in the comments below. I wanted to talk about homeschooling. We did interview another family that does it, but tell us about your experience. What are your favorite websites to use? And
for homeschooling?
Sorry, for house sitting. House sitting.
Okay, I was like, I haven't done one.
Sorry.
House sitting.
Yes, and is it hard to house sit or pet sit as a large family?
Well, okay, so um we've house sat probably 50% of our time on the road. Um, it was initially, it's a harder sell with a large family, but we built we did guest posting for trusted house sitters. We started house sitting in our own backyard. We've used Kiwi house sitter. We use local house sitting groups, Kiwi house sitters, Aussie house sitters. Um, what we sell, which is really important as a family, is that we haven't been able to travel with pets as a nomadic family, and your pets will be our first priority and our love, and they'll get 5 people's love instead of 1 person's love or 2 people's love. And then as the kids grew, like the flower farm on Lemmy, I mean, she had, 2 acres of cutting blooms, and we were able to weed the whole thing in 3 hours instead of 3 weeks. So we have 5 people that are going to contribute to the space, contribute to and of course your kids have to be willing, but I mean, we've house sat at above closed vineyards and put the vines to bed in Provence. We've house sat at pizzerias in Italy and Indonesia, all over the world. I mean, an organic farm in New Zealand where the kids learned how to shear from the neighbor. They gave the sheep all their shots. I mean, it's just incredible experience that you could never have in a hotel or an Airbnb. It's like it puts you in someone else's shoes instantly. And I would say, going back to the socialization, it's probably been one of the best things we've ever done for finding community. Because you move in and you're a neighbor. So
But the owner of the house, they're away on holiday, so you're meeting
yeah.
the neighbors.
Yeah, but you meet a lot of times we overlap, especially when they say they hire us because they're like, they love our story. And then like the day before they're supposed to leave, they're like, wait, who are you again? So we overlap. And so they can meet us and, we can connect and go through everything. Because a lot of times it's a lot of work. I mean, it's definitely not a vacation. And you're responsible for other people's, home and their most prized, loved pets. And it's a big responsibility, but it's been so great for us to teach our kids about chores and about caring for animals in a way that we could never do with this lifestyle because pets don't travel that well.
Yeah, no, again, that's been an issue. My kids want pets, but we just, with our nomadic lifestyle, too difficult. So we haven't done it yet, but we plan to soon. I think I mentioned we're going to Italy soon, but there's not a lot of pets sitting there. But I'll take your advice that you mentioned earlier to try to find homes that are owned by British or other Europeans where we're going.
You'll find, I mean, every culture is super different. Like there's a lot of cultures in Europe that are so, I mean, my home is your home. They're not super particular about anything. And other cultures, they want to make sure you're all vetted out before you. But trusted house sitters, things like that. Anyone who's on there, you have to have fingerprints, criminal back checks, all sorts of stuff. So you build that. But now we don't even need those accounts anymore because we have so many connections around the world and people just ask us to come back over and over. And now actually we can't because we have all these university deadlines and we have to stay where we are until this fall. So it's a little bit different now than it was, but it's an amazing experience. And I wrote a blog called Living Large Around the World Rent Free. And I list a lot of the different resources that we've used.
Okay, we will put that in the comments. And this also helps you save a lot of money and be able to travel to more higher income countries because your accommodation is taken care of. And what kind of budgets have you seen Worldschooler families have? Because they all vary depending on where.
I don't really know because like I said, we haven't spent a lot of time with other Worldschooling families. What I would say is that we look at income so differently now than we ever did in our more traditional life. Housing, mortgage, rents, that was our biggest expense in our traditional life. And really 50% of 10 years, we haven't had that expense. It's huge. So, and not only that, we've gained so much more through the experience, but most of the places, we have such a big family. Our teens eat, like in some places we'll spend a little bit more than we spent in our traditional life. And I would say 90% of the time we're spending 30 to 40% less than we did in our traditional life.
Yeah, food and
We haven't owned a car in 10 years. We right now we ski everywhere. We can ski to different countries. We don't drive. We don't take public transportation. We don't do anything.
Wow, that's amazing. So you have your blog, and how else do you fund your travels? You do some social media kind of stuff?
Yeah, the blog, the world of travel blogging has changed so much since we left. I personally didn't get on social media until maybe 5 years ago,
Okay.
6 years ago. I just didn't, I think as a parent, it's a very complicated decision, but it's really important to being a digital nomad. So we have supported ourselves. I can't even tell you how many times we reinvented ourselves on this journey. I mean, are we going back? Are we going to get, our 9 to 5 again, or nope, let's just try this. So we've done whatever it takes to continue. We use a lot of barter, like an exorbitant amount of barter. And that might mean, and like we'll do social media marketing in exchange for ski passes, or we'll do operations feedback for a hotel in exchange for a stay. A lot of that. But also I do a lot of ghostwriting, a lot of leadership development writing. I do a lot of travel writing, although I had to diversify during COVID. And my husband has an online real estate referral business called Top Turning Agent, and he was a realtor before we left. So we just kind of move through however we need to, but we both work every day. We ski all day, we work all night. So we're kind of doing, I guess, probably like many world schoolers, doing probably 20 different things at once. We were approached our first year of world schooling when really it was not a word, to write a book. And we did publish a hard copy book, and the first couple runs sold out. And then we decided the publishing industry is very interesting. And we didn't really have time to crack the code on it. So we decided to do an ebook where we had control end to end. So we did that, and there's a lot more volumes of that coming out. Yeah, we do it all. I have some of our favorite things on our blog that have helped us with university applications, with travel clothing, with things like that. Only things that we've experienced. So some of those companies we have partnerships with. That's been really helpful. I've never done ads on the blog, nothing like that.
You do like affiliate marketing or
yeah, and I do some, not really. It's really things we've used for 10 years that we want that people ask me about all the time, that I want other people to just be able to find. But it's not really marketing so much. I do some guest posting, but really right now I just do a lot of writing. I was in Rick Steves' festivals book, and yeah, just whatever I can with 3 teens.
Yeah, you're busy.
Yeah.
You've given us so much information and wisdom and advice. And I guess the last question is, what advice would you have for world school newbies who are just about to launch into this lifestyle?
Do we have another hour?
Yeah.
No, I would say
like the top advice or things that you wish you would have known before you started.
I would say to focus on the why, not the how, which is really, really hard. But the world school journeys that I see that kind of self-implode, it's focused a lot on the how, and not so much on the why, and getting everyone on the same page. And for us, that's why we're still going. And I think, our process has stood the test of time for our family. So finding a process that works for your family where the why is at the top is number one. Once you have the why, get out of your own way. You're exactly where you need to be, and let the path reveal itself. Don't get attached to the path. The path is not what it's all about. It's about citizenship, and it's not about seeing all the big sites. It's not about, those will come if you don't focus on the path. It will reveal itself, I promise. And there are no wrong turns. Absolutely no wrong turns. Every time you think you're at a dead end, it's exactly where you're supposed to be. And you just have to stay until the direction reveals itself. I promise that as well. It happened yesterday. It happens all the time to us. And we just say, okay, I wonder why we're here. So just give yourself time to wonder, give the world time to reveal the path to you and it will work out. I'm just so excited for everyone that's at the beginning of this, because I can't, I mean, it's not even world schooling. It's nothing to us. It's our life. And it's hard to be away from family. That's the biggest challenge. But also this has given us more time. I mean, we spent 8 weeks with my husband's parents 2 years ago, and my father-in-law has since passed away. And in our past life, we never would have had 8 weeks to spend on the East Coast. Never. It would have been Thanksgiving for 2 days. It would have taken us 20 years, 30 years to spend 8 weeks with them.
Right.
And the kids got to watch the Yankees and got to, go to doctor's appointments with them and got to be in their life. And that is the gift of this lifestyle.
Yeah. And
truly
being able to work online and learn online and have the location independence. Wow, that's such a great answer, Colleen. Actually, one last question is, tell us a little bit about your travel consulting service, because obviously you have an ebook, you have a wonderful blog, but I noticed that you consult people if they're going on a trip. How do you do that? Because I actually think, like, should I do that? But I haven't been everywhere. I feel like I wouldn't be able to consult for specific countries, unless
I think it's not. I mean, that's one thing I do, but it always turns into like lifestyle coaching.
Okay.
It's usually even for if you're going on a trip with a few generations and you want it to be a certain way, you still have to get on the same page about what the vision looks like for that. So it always turns into this higher level, why. And I think it's just, especially in our American culture, it's so much about doing and less about the why. And sometimes we get to a certain age or stage, and I notice it with our teens too at times, and they go, what am I doing? Why am I, and I'm like, that's the question you need to be asking. Like, why am I here? What's my point? What's my contribution? So that's usually where my coaching goes. Although I can help with trains and where you should stay and different regions in different countries, but I haven't been everywhere either. And if someone says, I want to go to Nepal, then I'll say, we can talk through that. And I just ask the questions that I know to ask anywhere that we land.
Right. Like what?
Yeah. And I give, a lot away. People write to me all the time with questions, and I love connecting. But I think when it gets to a certain point where someone really needs a framework around their experience, then that's where I really come in to kind of help shape the next stage for people.
Okay. Wonderful. All right. So we're going to put your link down below for your blog, but are you active anywhere else? Are you posting on Instagram or any other social media?
So Instagram is at Livology Blog. Okay. And I post stories almost every day. And yeah, we've been on there for a while. We spent the last summer, we spent Euro camping through, we did like we did the whole Croatian coast. And so there's reels on there about that. Yeah, we post everywhere. I don't do, what's the dancing one? TikTok. I don't dance. But I do Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and it's all at
Twitter.
Yeah, Twitter. And that's at Livology Blog. I think it might be Colleen Mariotti. One of the two.
Okay. Amazing. Thank you so much, Colleen. This has been such a amazing chat, and I am sure people watching have gotten so much out of it. And again, when I first streamed this in my Facebook group, I'm going to try to do a watch party. So if you're, I'll invite you.
No. Yeah, I think the date you threw out for posting, we're going to be driving from here to the Netherlands.
Okay.
Which is, there's a couple passes involved, so I'm not really sure.
But maybe afterwards you can log on.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy.
People will have questions.
I'm happy to answer any questions, and it's been an honor to talk to you and to the community that you're building. And I'm always so enamored with people's ability to build these virtual communities. And thank you for the work that you're doing to inspire others. I'm so busy living this life that it's been hard to connect with other people, and we have a very big family for this lifestyle. Although there's much bigger families that are doing it, even better. It's just it's humbling and it's an honor.
Well, I cannot wait to find out how things go with the college tour. So good luck with that. And
thank you. That blog will be coming out. Yes. I'll probably sometime when we get back. I'll put that all together.
I can't wait to read it because again, I mean, we don't have a dual citizenship in Europe. I wish we did, but
either way, there's great and there's actually a link on our favorite things for university beyond the States, university resources that is just great. So yeah, lots of stuff out there.
Again, my girls are 13 and they're creative, artistic, a bit entrepreneurial. So
lots of liberal arts programs, lots of arts. I mean, our friends in Italy were all like marble sculptors, ballerinas. Like it's the arts are alive and well.
Yeah.
And it's really, our daughter wants to go into fashion design and marketing, and she just met a woman from Milan on the cable car that invited her to her workshop. And I mean, there's a lot of creative people.
Yeah.
A lot, especially in Italy. I mean, you're going to be, that's just exciting.
Oh yeah. Again, we're going to be spending 2.5 months in Italy soon. So we're excited about that. I'm going to dig through your Instagram and just try to see if there's,
oh my gosh,
then that we're heading to.
We were in Liguria last summer for 6 weeks as well. We did the whole Italian Riviera, and we can't really leave during university applications. You got to stay.
Yeah.
Kind of, you have to have an address and a home base to kind of mail stuff. And
right.
So we haven't left Europe, but as soon as we drop the boys off,
okay, good.
We'll probably go back to the US for a visit and then make our way back at some point somehow.
That sounds amazing. All right. Thank you so much, Colleen.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for watching. This is Lizz Quain with Trailblazing Families. My twins and I have been traveling and world schooling for over 6 years, and I'm happy to share about our experiences. Make sure to check out the other videos on this channel. I do have a playlist of all the other interviews of other world schooling families and service providers. We're all happy to share our information and wisdom about how to best live this world schooling, digital nomad, and family travel lifestyle. If you're new to world schooling and need a bit of help, I do have a super comprehensive 12-week program on how to travel extensively as a family and how to world school, how to educate your kids. There's many different ways to do it. So reach out to me and schedule a no obligation Zoom meeting so we can have a quick chat and see if my program is a good fit for you. Thanks and happy trails.